There is a horizon line in the human mind, a distant shore where we believe our struggles will cease, our anxieties will quiet, and a permanent state of satisfaction will finally be unlocked. For some, this shore is a specific number in a bank account. For others, it's a title on a business card, a home in a certain neighborhood, or the admiration of their peers. We spend our entire lives rowing toward it, convinced that with each stroke, we are getting closer. But a strange and often cruel paradox is at play. As we row, the horizon seems to recede at the exact same speed. The promotion is achieved, but the satisfaction is fleeting, quickly replaced by the ambition for the next one. The financial goal is met only for the goalpost to be moved further down the field. The new car smells wonderful for a week, and then it simply becomes the car. We live in an age of unprecedented material abundance, with access to comforts and technologies that would have been unimaginable to kings of the past. Yet studies on happiness and well-being show a population riddled with a quiet, persistent anxiety, a sense of not quite there-ness. The problem is not our effort, nor is it the validity of our goals. The problem is the horizon itself. We are engaged in a race of our own design, but we have forgotten to define the finish line. We have mistaken the act of running for the purpose of the race, and in doing so, we have chained our happiness to an ever-moving target, ensuring it remains forever out of reach. Today, we will explore one of the most powerful and counterintuitive concepts in both finance and philosophy, the psychology of enough. This isn't a call for mediocrity or a surrender of ambition. On the contrary, it is the most strategic move one can make in the pursuit of a meaningful life. It is the act of consciously and deliberately drawing your own finish line, not as an end to your growth, but as the true beginning of your freedom. To understand why the concept of enough is so elusive, we must first dissect the machinery within us that is wired for more. Our minds are ancient survival tools, honed over millennia in an environment of scarcity. For our ancestors, the desire for more food, more shelter, more security was a direct line to a longer and better life. Complacency was a death sentence. This deep-seated evolutionary drive doesn't simply vanish in an age of grocery stores and stock portfolios. It lingers as a constant, humming desire for more. The philosopher and investor Naval Ravikant articulated this perfectly when he said, "Desire is a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want." Think about the profundity of that statement. Every time you set a new desire, you are signing an agreement to experience a state of lack. You are creating a gap between your present reality and a desired future, and then choosing to live inside that gap. The modern world is a master architect of these gaps. Advertising, social media, and consumer culture are all vast engines designed to manufacture desire on an industrial scale. They exist to convince you that your current state is incomplete and that the solution is just one purchase, one upgrade, one lifestyle change away. This internal wiring for more, supercharged by an external world that profits from our dissatisfaction, creates a psychological phenomenon known as the hedonic treadmill. It is perhaps the single greatest obstacle to lasting happiness. The concept is simple. Human beings have a remarkable ability to adapt to their circumstances. When something wonderful happens, a pay raise or a new relationship or a major achievement, we experience a spike in happiness. But over time, we adapt. That new, higher salary becomes our baseline. The thrill of the achievement fades into a memory. Our expectations recalibrate, and our level of happiness returns to its previous set point. We are then forced to seek the next big thing to get another temporary high. We are running faster and faster, but psychologically, we remain in the same place. This treadmill is exhausting. It leads to a life where we are constantly chasing the next milestone, believing it holds the key, only to find the lock has been changed once we arrive. We believe we are making progress toward a destination when in reality, we are merely increasing the speed of the machine beneath our feet. The second powerful force that keeps us from defining enough is the engine of social comparison. We're social creatures, and we understand our own standing in the world by observing others. This is not inherently a flaw, it is a fundamental part of our social DNA. But in the modern world, this mechanism has been hijacked. Morgan Housel, in his book, The Psychology of Money, identifies a brilliant concept he calls the man in the car paradox. When you see someone driving an expensive, exotic car, you rarely think, wow, the person driving that car is so cool. Instead, you think, wow, if I had that car, people would think I'm cool. The car becomes a prop and a fantasy about your own life. We use the wealth of others not as a benchmark for admiration, but as a benchmark for our own desires. Social media has poured gasoline on this fire. Your social circle is no longer the handful of neighbors on your street whose lives you understood with a degree of context and nuance. Your social circle is now the entire world, and it presents itself to you through a meticulously curated highlight reel. You are comparing your behind-the-scenes reality with everyone else's public performance. You see the vacation, not the credit card debt that funded it. You see the business success, not the years of failure and sleepless nights that preceded it. This constant comparison makes defining enough almost impossible because the target is not just moving, it's being moved by millions of other people. Your enough becomes contingent on having more than someone else, a game that can never be won. There will always be someone with a bigger house, a faster car, a more prestigious title. As the saying goes, comparison is the thief of joy. It steals our contentment by constantly reminding us of what we don't have, blinding us to the abundance that is already in our possession. The race for more becomes a race against an infinite number of competitors, many of whom we don't even know. It is a race with no prize, only the perpetual feeling of being behind. Furthermore, this endless chase is often fueled by a fundamental misunderstanding of what we are actually chasing. We conflate money with wealth. Money is a medium of exchange. It is a tool. It is what you use to buy groceries and pay your bills. But wealth is something different. Wealth is assets that earn while you sleep. Wealth is owning your time. Wealth is the freedom to wake up one morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. Many people spend their lives sacrificing their wealth, their time, their freedom, their relationships in the pursuit of more money. They take the high-stress job that requires 60-hour weeks, believing the bigger paycheck will buy them freedom. But the lifestyle inflation that accompanies the bigger paycheck, the larger house, the more expensive car, the more pricey vacations, creates golden handcuffs. They need to keep running on the treadmill just to maintain their new, higher cost of living. They have more money, but less wealth. They have a higher net worth on paper, but less control over their own lives. Without a definition of enough, the pursuit of money can become a trap that consumes the very freedom it was meant to create. You become a servant to your own lifestyle, a caretaker for your possessions, perpetually working to fund a level of consumption that fails to deliver lasting happiness.
The goal is not to have more money. The goal is to have the freedom and options that we believe more money will provide. The great secret is that this freedom often requires far less money than we think, but it requires a commodity that is far more valuable: clarity. Clarity on what is truly important and clarity on when to stop the chase. So if our minds are wired for more, and our society is built to encourage it, how do we escape this cycle? How do we build an off-ramp from the hedonic treadmill? The answer lies in a conscious, deliberate, and deeply personal act: the drawing of a finish line. This is not an act of resignation, but an act of profound wisdom and rebellion. The foundation for this act can be found in the teachings of the ancient Stoics. Philosophers like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius lived in a world of extreme wealth and extreme poverty, of absolute power and absolute powerlessness. They understood the seductive danger of external validation. Their philosophy was built on a simple but powerful premise: differentiate between what you can control and what you cannot. You cannot control the economy, the stock market, or what your neighbor buys. You can, however, control your own desires, your own responses, and your own definition of a successful life. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." This is the very essence of the psychology of enough. True wealth is found not in the expansion of one's possessions, but in the contraction of one's wants. It is an internal shift from an external scorecard to an internal one. An external scorecard measures success by titles, bank balances, and the opinions of others. It is fragile, volatile, and ultimately unsatisfying. An internal scorecard measures success by your own values. Did I live with integrity today? Did I spend my time on things that matter to me? Am I free from the anxious need for more? Defining enough is the process of creating your internal scorecard. It is saying, this is what a rich life looks like to me. It might be having the financial resources to never have to work a job you dislike again. It might be the ability to travel or to dedicate your life to a creative pursuit, or to be fully present with your family. The specifics do not matter. What matters is that the definition is yours and that it is concrete. This philosophical decision must then be translated into a practical reality. An abstract desire for enough is not sufficient. You must give it a number. This is where personal finance becomes a tool for applied philosophy. The concept of financial independence, or FI, is the modern embodiment of this Stoic ideal. It provides a tangible finish line for the financial part of your race. The most common calculation is the 4% rule, which suggests that you can safely withdraw 4% of your invested assets each year without depleting your principal. By flipping this around, you can calculate your FI number. Your target is 25 times your desired annual spending. If you determine that a fulfilling, joyful life costs you $60,000 per year, your finish line is a portfolio of $1.5 million. The beauty of this exercise is not in the precision of the number itself, it's in the transformation it creates. It converts an infinite game, get more money, into a finite game, get to this number. The goal is no longer a vague, receding horizon. It is a fixed point on a map. Every dollar saved and invested is no longer just a denial of present consumption. It is a measurable step towards a clearly defined state of freedom. This clarity is a powerful antidote to the anxiety of the endless race. It provides a reason, a purpose, and an endpoint. The story of Ronald Read and Richard Foscone, also highlighted by Morgan Housel, is the perfect parable for this principle. Richard Foscone was a Harvard-educated Merrill Lynch executive. He was successful by every external metric. He borrowed heavily to expand his massive home, which had 11 bathrooms, 2 elevators, and a monthly maintenance bill of over $90,000. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, his leverage and high costs wiped him out. He went bankrupt. Ronald Read was a janitor and gas station attendant in Vermont. He lived an incredibly frugal life. He bought and held blue-chip stocks for decades, patiently reinvesting the dividends. When he died at the age of 92, he left an estate worth over $8 million, the vast majority of which he donated to his local library and hospital. Foscone played the infinite game. No matter how much he earned, it was never enough. His appetite for more, for a lifestyle that signaled success to the outside world, led to his ruin. Reed played the finite game. He had a definition of enough for his own life, a simple, quiet existence. Everything beyond that was surplus, which he allowed to compound quietly for decades until it became an astonishing fortune. He won not by earning more, but by defining his finish line and refusing to move it. His story demonstrates that the gap between what you have and what you want is more powerful than the amount you earn. By keeping his wants modest, Reed created an enormous surplus of freedom and eventually a legacy. At this point, a common and understandable objection arises. Doesn't defining enough mean giving up on ambition? Is it not a recipe for stagnation and complacency? This is a fundamental misreading of the concept. Defining your finish line is not about stopping. It is about changing the reason you run. Imagine you are building a ship. For years, your every effort is focused on the singular goal of making the ship seaworthy. You work tirelessly, you sacrifice, you pour all your resources into its construction. This phase of life is about accumulation, about building the vessel that can carry you across the ocean. Your enough number is the point at which the ship is complete. It is strong, it is stocked, and it is capable of sailing anywhere in the world. To stop at that point and simply admire the ship in the harbor would be a waste. The purpose of building the ship was not just to own a ship, it was to gain the freedom of the open sea. Getting to enough is the completion of the ship. It marks the end of need-based, anxiety-driven striving. It is the graduation from I have to work to I get to work. When your survival and security are no longer on the line, you are liberated to pursue a higher form of ambition. An ambition driven not by fear or social pressure, but by curiosity, passion, and a desire to contribute. You can start the business you always dreamed of without the crushing pressure of it needing to pay your mortgage from day one. You can dedicate your time to mastering a skill, like learning a language or a musical instrument, for the pure joy of it. You can devote yourself to your community, to your family, to causes that are meaningful to you. This is the ultimate form of wealth. It is not about an idle life of consumption on a beach. It is about a productive life of contribution, but on your terms. It is the power to direct your most precious and finite resource, your time and attention, towards what you and you alone deem valuable. Ambition does not die when you reach enough. It is reborn, purified of ego and fear. We have been sold a false narrative, a story that says happiness is a destination we must race towards, and that the fuel for this race is the perpetual desire for more. We have been running so hard for so long that we have forgotten to ask if we are even on the right track. The psychological toll of this endless marathon is immense, leaving us feeling exhausted, anxious, and perpetually dissatisfied no matter how much we achieve. The antidote is a simple yet radical act of self-determination. It begins with the philosophical courage to look inward and ask the hard questions. What does a truly rich life look like for me? What is the purpose of my work? What are my non-negotiable values? It requires turning off the noise of social comparison and listening to the quiet voice of your own intuition. From this philosophical clarity, you must then build a practical framework. You must define your finish line in concrete terms. Calculate the number that provides for your needs and frees you from servitude to a paycheck. This act alone transforms the race from an infinite chase This act alone transforms the race from an infinite chase into a winnable game. It gives you a target, a purpose, and a light at the end of the tunnel. Finally, you must reframe your understanding of ambition. Reaching enough is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of the most important part of it. It is the moment you unshackle yourself from the expectations of others and the demands of survival, and are finally free to pursue a life of authentic purpose. It is the transition from building your vessel to finally setting sail. The finish line is not a limitation. It is the ultimate liberation. It is the only way to truly win a game that is rigged to never end. The society we live in will always whisper, just a little more. The challenge of a well-lived life is to find the wisdom and the strength to decide, for yourself, what constitutes enough. And then to have the grace to enjoy it, not as an end point, but as the starting block for the life you were always meant to live. The question is not what it will take to finally make you happy. The question is, what have you already decided is enough?